Hey everyone, Jason Morgan, editor of Fleet Equipment. Welcome to Fleet Equipment Unscripted. So this is the second video in the Teletrac Navman demo that talks about the AI functionality, some very cool features in terms of interacting with your data, really just being able to ask your computer a question, right? It's no longer spreadsheets and Excel sheets that you have to dig through. You can just say, how's my fuel performance, or what vehicles are performing better than others, those kind of things in real language, and get a real answer. It's very early in the demo and the development of that. You can check it out in the video here. If you missed part one, which is an overview of the real-time analytics performance of the platform, you can check that out in the link here below the video. So enjoy.
And then, to top it off, from really providing automation, we actually have an Amazon Alexa integration.
No.
So, yep. So now, you can say, "Hey Alexa, open 360 and tell me, uh, tell me tell me my events for today." So it'll go out and tell you what events are happening or what's active that you have to go pay attention to. You can tell it, which vehicles are late to their stops today, or who's arrived at their stops. So you can actually, without even opening the platform, you can wake up in the morning and ask Alexa to go look for you. And
Right. No. I know, that's great. While you're making your coffee, and just so you can
exactly.
just say how many. Could you say like how many vehicles are idle right now? So
Uh-huh.
I mean, they should all be on the road, right? If they say,
Yes.
well, oh wow, okay.
Yep. So while you're making your coffee, you can determine how strong it's going to be, right?
Right, exactly. Oh my, that's right. Because I mean, I have one, and even then, we even just use just to wake up in the morning, just ask the weather, right? Just to see what we can do that day and what the plan kind of is. But now on the business side of it, oh my gosh. Yeah. No, or if I could just go back to bed, right? Like
Yeah, exactly.
20 alerts, like, oh, okay, I shouldn't have
I'm
gotten
done.
up this morning. That's pretty awesome.
So yeah, as we start looking at all these different data points, right, and all the real time activity that we're getting, and the automation that we're providing, and the automation is actually not just one way, not just us providing data to other platforms, but it's us ingesting data from those as well if we have to, in order to give more context to what we need to do. You still have to look at three or four different types of reports to sometimes get to one answer, right? This is where we start thinking about that AI solution, the analytics solution, and all the different data points that can consume and process. And while you can have the best engine in the background, if the front end doesn't lend itself to the average user, it's not going to get used, and there's going to be no value there. So what we actually looked at is we actually went out and looked at the search engines, right? You look at Google and how people interact with Google when they want to know something. Usually if you ask Google a question, a general question, it's going to come back with some type of an answer, or point you in a direction in which you can go find the answer at, right? So we figured that's kind of the direction that we need to be at, to be that easily interacted with and be able to provide you solutions that you're looking for. So now we get to our insights engine, where the ask any question is really in natural language.
I can just type in anything.
You can type in anything, right? You can, for example, really, really fast, really quick, show me top 5 drivers. Oh, and I misspelled drivers. By speed events. And this fleet right here is actually 700 vehicles, over 1,000 drivers. So it's crunching all the different numbers and it's figuring out which drivers have generated the most events. The drivers aren't assigned to a particular vehicle, so it has to go actually look at the vehicles as well that they were driving and figure out which events were generated in which vehicles, and then sum all that stuff up. There we go.
Oh wow, okay.
So as you see here, we have a large number of unknown drivers that have generated events. This may be that the fleet may have a part of the fleet that doesn't have drivers that identify themselves. So what I want to do is I want to quickly remove this data element, because it doesn't mean much to me if I'm trying to get to who the drivers are. I can figure that other part out later. So here, I removed the data element, automatically recalculated my numbers, and brought up who is my top worst offenders. And I can further dig down. So I want to do select a driver, right? Mark Whitby with the 1.1200, different speeding events. I can drill down and say, you know what? Tell me what vehicles
Oh
this
wow.
person was driving.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. He drove 5 different vehicles. Most of them were in vehicle 1640.
Wow.
And you can keep digging further and further into the data until you get satisfied with the answer you want.
Right.
But here, this gives you, hey, Mark, buddy, when you're driving 1640, why are you always speeding?
Right.
right?
Or maybe that's just the one I mean, is it just the one he's driving all the time, and then
Yeah.
the ones are, here and there?
So
Interesting. Okay. Can I ask it a few questions?
sure.
Okay. How can I improve my fuel economy?
So as you're looking as I'm typing, it actually gives me suggestions of what I should be selecting in the words.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So here it's telling me total consumption by vehicle name. Now, what we will be releasing shortly after our launch is our what we call data insight solution, which is going to go in and detect those anomalies where you're going to say, hey, where are my outliers in fuel consumption?
Right. Yes. Will it spit out like these vehicles are idling too much?
Yeah, exactly. So
Okay.
it'll tell you what to look at. Once you click on it, it'll say the anomaly here is most likely because it's idling too much, it's speeding too much. It'll analyze the data and put it in context as to what could be the causing or leading indicators as to why that's going on.
Okay. Okay. Very cool.
Yeah, I'm going to give you a more complex type of query. Is tell me growth of trips monthly. So here it's telling me for the year, every month, how many trips are completed and what the trend line is. Am I up, down? Am I flat?
Oh yeah. Okay.
You can pretty instantly say monthly or last week. And
Is this a real fleet or is this your demo fleet?
no, this is a real fleet.
I mean, then that's amazing. I mean, look at just the pandemic impact, right?
Exactly.
That's
Yeah, no,
amazing.
this is a real fleet. This is a real fleet based in Australia, actually.
Oh wow. Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. That's interesting. And then, so then even this year, didn't they? The fires were this year, right? Or
Mm,
was it January?
yeah, it
January
was
or
early
February?
on, the end of last year, beginning of this year.
Okay, because January is really far. I mean, they've really improved uh, then too. So even if you think of how they were maybe being impacted by all those kind of concerns, that's interesting.
Yeah. So that this fleet, because the our engineering office or engineering team that's been working on this platform is based in Australia, we went out and asked some of our customers there if they could be beta customers early on, and so they've had this system testing it since January, really. Generating data for us just because they were just a local fleet to that team. But yeah, they're essentially our biggest fleet there that's generated the most data for us on the platform.
I see. Okay, and that reminds me of one of my follow-up questions I wanted to ask earlier. If I'm a new customer, right? Let's say I'm switching platforms, let's say I haven't been on your platform, how much time do you need for me to generate data to be able to use this kind of solution?
It really depends on the fleet and the size of your fleet, right? Because the more data you provide us, and the faster or that you're able to provide us the data, the more it learns and the faster it learns. So if you're a small fleet of 10 vehicles, but you're out running every day doing different things and providing a different data elements or different data points, you can get answers fairly quickly. Because you can get answers for the day if it's your first day. If it's your first week, you can get answers for that first week. And as it's getting provided more data throughout the weeks and the months, it starts learning more and more about your behaviors and what things should look like, and it starts to put things in ranges.
Right. So when you say provide you with the data, what is that in terms of like on the front end, what I'm saying you can or can't collect, or does that mean getting my drivers to actually use it and fill this stuff out?
Getting your drivers to do the items that they have to fill out, or the processes that they have to follow.
Okay.
you know Whether it's a lot of the things that are being collected from the vehicle standpoint, it's all automated, right? The vehicle's
Right.
just reporting and we're collecting.
Okay.
But when we're talking about forms or checklists or other things that are involved with digital things that drivers have to interact with, it's just a matter of instilling that habit that they have to go in and do that for you.
Right. Right. Will it tell me? Will it tell me which drivers aren't doing it? Like, can I
Yes,
say, okay,
absolutely.
okay, okay, like which drivers aren't filling out my XYZ report, and it'll
Yes.
give you that kind of info too. Okay,
Huh?
so that's fun.
So the other piece is, as I said, one, it's the search bar is based on natural language. But for those customers that may not be comfortable in being able to come up with questions or determine what a query should be or what they're looking for, we also made sure that we wanted to provide some basic guidance around how to interact with it. So if you look at the how-to search, we tell you how to phrase it, how to structure it, excuse me, the different uh, data aggregation that you're looking at coming up with, right? To really guide you on how to use it and how to interact with it as you speak to it, as you want to know things about it or know things about your actual fleet and how it's performing.
I see. I
So
see.
this all goes out to how we want it to be easy to use, and we want it to be unintimidating, right? Because if you find it intimidating, you're not going to use it.
Right. Right.
And the minute you say data analytics to most people, I don't want to touch it, right? I'm already intimidated by it.
Right.
So we want to be able to empower you to actually look at your data and let the system work for you, um, in order to be able to give you a better opportunity to run your business a lot better.
Right.
The
Right.
other piece
Very
that we
cool.
give you here is we pre-created queries for you so that you can click on these queries to automatically uh, look at the data and kind of give you an example of what you're looking at.
How about the harsh cornering? That one's kind of cool.
So it looks like in May, some people were turning some corners.
Right. Well, and that's what's cool is now you can go and say, okay, why? Like even like you can kind of even the fleet manager's job then, because
Yeah,
humans still have to do stuff even with all this AI stuff. Let's say you had a lot of tire scrubbing, you replaced a lot of tires, then you're like, well, why the heck did that happen? Looking at May, like, okay, well, why are they cornering like this, right?
exactly, exactly.
Interesting.
So
Interesting.
that this is the ability of, hey, I want to know this. Let me ask that.
Right.
Now we look at our analytics platform where we actually pre-populated dashboards for you.
Oh wow.
And these dashboards are really a collection of dashboards inside of it. So if we go to this advanced productivity, it's going to take about 30 seconds or so to come up with the data, but that's because it's crunching 30 different dashboards of data.
Wow.
Sorry, 10 different dashboards of data.
Okay. Wow.
As it's going through it, is distance traveled, and it gives you the time frame it's doing it for, right? The last 30 days, you have dashboards of distance traveled, total trips, vehicle utilization within that period, ignition hours, idle hours, time spent idling. Breaks down your idle hours, ignition hours, fuel used, ranking versus harsh acceleration. And if you look down here, the geofence time, it actually gives you hotspots of where the most time was spent in geofences.
Oh wow. Yeah, that's cool.
So, for example, here, my vehicle spent a lot of time at this depot.
Right.
This is automatically tells me, is this a depot where I'm picking stuff up? If it is, they're holding my drivers back.
Right.
What's going on, right?
Right. Or even drop off times. If there's, if you're slowed down there because they're backed up, now you can start talking to them about how do we get our trucks out of here faster.
Exactly.
That's cool. That's very cool.
Yeah. So, for example, even in this dashboard, if I want to do something like fuel used, right? This truck, it's fuel used. Who drove it the most? Let's go with driver name.
Okay, yeah.
And as you drill down on this dashboard, all the other dashboards change based on that drill down. So now everything's based on these different drivers, and how much idle hours that vehicle spent, ignition hours,
Okay.
all this other data changes for you.
Right. Can I do it by routes? Will it do routes?
Uh, that component of the software is coming shortly after launch.
Okay.
Um, and I'll cover in a little bit exactly what other modules we'll be releasing after launch.
Okay.
So, you have all this stuff around productivity and what your vehicles are doing.
Right.
And then we can also go into safety and everything around safety, and how your vehicles are being operated in the field, whether that's harsh usage, harsh driving.
Right. Oh
You
wow.
know,
Okay.
in the last 30 days, my fleets generate 164,000 harsh events. That's something I probably want to focus on.
Yeah, but it's also, I mean, it's also like where do I even start?
Hmm.
Right. That's a
Yeah.
lot.
So if yeah, exactly. You look at here, right, and then you start looking at overspeed. Maybe it's an overspeed issue, and you start looking at where they rank.
Oh, I see.
who's creating the most issues, overspeed hours, right? And then down here you have violations by driver. You can dig into, harsh events, harsh braking, speed events, and it gives it all in a chart for you to go back and look and dig into if you want to dig into it.
I see. Okay. No, that makes sense. And even from the fleet manager point of view, it can seem overwhelming, right? But it's also understanding that I have to understand that it's just information that I can start pecking away at it, right?
Yeah,
I don't like you see that number and you go, oh God, okay,
yeah,
I don't need to
exactly,
know how to do this. But if I just start, okay, well, I'm gonna take speeding, and then it shows me the people that I need to go talk to. I don't need to call everybody in to have a speeding safety session when 10 of those drivers are perfectly fine, right? They're giving me the eye roll
exactly,
like I'm wasting their time.
exactly, perfectly put.
Interesting.
Yeah, you
Interesting.
and you can tackle, the individual events, uh, in phases. If
Right.
I see that speeding is my biggest problem, that's what I'm gonna tackle this month. And then, cornering or acceleration or whatever that may be, you start knocking those down month by month, and you start targeting the drivers that are being the biggest offenders,
Right.
right?
Right.
And for
Yeah,
example,
because
here we have like hotspots on a map. This tells me that I have a speeding problem at these locations. Well, I can dig into why, or I can just ensure that the routes that I assign my drivers avoid those areas to avoid the speeding in the area. There may be a reason. Maybe it's downhill most of the time,
right,
whatever that may be. Or maybe it's the middle of the desert and it's a flat, and people think that they can just open up the engine and go.
right, 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 right. Well, and the idea that these things are happening whether I knew it or not, right?
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
just now I just am able to see it. I have the visibility into it. Yeah, at first you have a bit of a sticker shock, I guess, when you
Mhm.
see the number, right? Because you have your own idea or narrative of what your how your fleet performs in your head just based on non-data, right? Just
Exactly.
anecdotes and the equipment you see. So being able to kind of process that, know that okay, well this guy isn't falling. It's just a big number that I can just start chipping away at, start looking at some of these
Yeah,
things.
and yeah, exactly. And the way it's a big number that was occurring before I knew about it,
Right,
but now I can go figure out how to get that number reduced.
right, right, right. No, no, that's interesting. That's interesting.
So, as we start, once we get this product out in the market and launched later here in a couple of weeks, you know, following after that again is going to be that advanced anomaly detection in your data through analytics. We'll also be deploying a couple other modules that will be available, which is route planning, journey planning, and route compliance. So you're able to you know plan your routes, execute your routes, and then start tracking things like plan versus actual, time spent at individual jobs, individual types of jobs, or individual pickups or deliveries, and we start analyzing like which jobs take longer than others.
Right,
And within that, as you start filling out as your drivers start filling out the activity forms and the checklist, you can start measuring levels of activity between the types of jobs that they're doing. Why does it take 30 minutes to replace a hose, some wiring at at for this particular HVAC job versus this particular HVAC job?
right,
You start being able to really contextualize that type of granularity in your data to really not only improve what you're doing, but give you the ability to maybe you're underestimating your work because you didn't realize how much time is being spent for that type of a job.
right. Will route planning give me any estimates? Like if you take this route, your expected NPG would be this compared to this route plan, or maybe harsh braking potential or speeding potential, anything like that?
It'll start getting into route analyzing and everything that's going on within the vehicles, what they're doing with those particular routes. So
Oh,
you'll
wow,
start
okay.
ingesting that type of data and being able to uh, change the routes taken.
Okay. Based on how I'm running those routes already.
Yes,
Oh
exactly.
wow. Okay, that's fun. That's fun. Very cool.
So that basically gives you a broad view of everything that we have now and everything that's coming as we start evolving the platform and start ingesting more data into it.
Right. Right. No, very cool. And I think that's important too, that it's not just a release, right? It's like this evolution of how
Absolutely.
you use it. I mean, you're still looking at a lot of reports, a lot of dashboards, but the way you're getting to them is more purposeful, right? Like I'm getting to what I need a little quicker, and then I can
Yeah,
start understanding it.
exactly.
Interesting. Very interesting.
And really the goal is to help you understand your data and how your business is running.